The cameras flashed non-stop as Marcus King adjusted the cuffs of his tailored charcoal suit and stared through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the 82nd floor boardroom. Below him, the city stretched endlessly, glowing beneath the morning sun. Cars crawled through busy streets. Digital billboards flashed advertisements. Thousands of people hurried to work, completely unaware that their lives were about to change forever. Marcus had spent 15 years building King Global Technologies from a struggling startup into one of the most powerful companies in America. Today was supposed to be the greatest day of his life. A billion-dollar merger. Every major news network was covering it. Investors had flown in from around the world. Analysts were already predicting that the deal would make Marcus one of the richest CEOs in the country. His assistant, Tasha, entered the boardroom carrying a tablet. 5 minutes until the announcement. Marcus smiled. Everything ready? Every camera, every investor, every reporter. She paused. You're about to make history. Marcus laughed. That's the plan. Outside the boardroom, executives hurried through the hallways, preparing for the live broadcast. Everything seemed perfect. Too perfect. At the same time, nearly 20 miles away, something horrifying was happening inside a private biomedical laboratory, hidden beneath an industrial complex. Red emergency lights flashed. Scientists screamed. Security alarms blared. Dr. Ethan Cross stumbled backward, his white lab coat covered in blood. The reinforced glass containment chamber had shattered. Inside the chamber, Subject 27 slowly stood. Its skin was gray. Its eyes were clouded white. Its mouth dripped blood. The creature tilted its head unnaturally before launching itself toward a nearby scientist. The scream lasted only seconds. Then silence. Dr. Cross stared in disbelief. Years of secret experimentation, years of genetic research, years of government-funded biological enhancement programs. All lost. The creature wasn't supposed to survive. It definitely wasn't supposed to escape. A security guard fired 3 rounds. The bullet struck the creature directly in the chest. Nothing happened. The creature kept moving. Within minutes, the laboratory descended into complete chaos. Employees ran for the exits. Scientists hid under desks. Security teams tried desperately to contain the outbreak. But it was already too late. 1 infected victim became 3. 3 became 10. 10 became 50. The infection spread like wildfire. Above ground, workers at the industrial complex had no idea what was happening beneath their feet. Then the emergency doors burst open. The first infected victims emerged, and the apocalypse began. Back downtown, Marcus stepped onto the stage. The ballroom erupted with applause. Hundreds of investors stood and cheered. More crews focused their lenses. The giant screen behind Marcus displayed the King Global logo. His smile widened. This was his moment. He approached the podium. Good morning, everyone. More applause. Marcus waited patiently. We are gathered here today because innovation changes the world. The audience nodded. Investors smiled. Journalists scribbled notes. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned. Then someone's phone rang. The interruption was minor. At first, the man glanced down at his screen. His expression changed instantly. Confusion, then fear. He quickly stood and left the room. Several others checked their phones. News alerts appeared simultaneously. Emergency reports. Violent attacks. Multiple casualties. Unusual disease. Authorities responding. Marcus noticed the growing distraction. Everything okay? Nobody answered. People were too busy reading. Across the ballroom, whispers began spreading. The atmosphere shifted. Unease replaced excitement. Tasha approached the stage. She looked pale. Marcus immediately knew something was wrong. What happened? She handed him her tablet. A live news feed filled the screen. The reporter was visibly shaken. Behind her, smoke rose into the sky. Emergency vehicles raced through crowded streets. People were running, screaming, falling. Others were attacking them. The footage looked fake. Like a movie. Marcus frowned. What is this? The reporter's voice trembled. "We are receiving multiple reports of violent incidents spreading across several districts. Authorities have not confirmed the cause, but witnesses claim victims are exhibiting extreme aggression and unusual behavior." Suddenly, the camera swung sideways. A man tackled another person. Blood splattered across the pavement. The cameraman cursed. The feed cut out. Static replaced the image. The ballroom fell silent. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. For several long seconds, everyone simply stared at their screens. Then another alert arrived, and another, and another. The reports multiplied by the minute. Hospitals overwhelmed. Police stations under attack. Road closures, state of emergency. Marcus looked around the room. The celebration had completely vanished. Fear had taken its place. One investor stood abruptly. "I need to get to my family." Others followed. Within moments, dozens of attendees rushed toward the exits. Journalists abandoned equipment. Executives made frantic phone calls. Panic spread faster than logic. Marcus tried maintaining control. Everyone calmed down. Nobody listened. Outside, sirens echoed through the city. Thousands of them. Marcus turned toward the window. The view stopped him cold. Several blocks away, massive traffic jams filled the streets. People abandoned vehicles. Crowds ran in every direction. Black smoke rose from multiple locations. Helicopters circled overhead. For the first time all day, Marcus felt genuine fear. Something terrible was happening. Something bigger than any business deal. His phone vibrated. The caller ID displayed a name he hadn't seen in years. Dr. Ethan Cross. Marcus answered immediately. "Ethan?" Heavy breathing came through the speaker. Then a terrified voice. "Marcus, listen carefully. What happened?" "We lost containment." Marcus frowned. "What are you talking about?" Ethan sounded close to panic. "The project." Marcus froze. Years ago, before building his company empire, Marcus had secretly invested in experimental biotechnology research. Only a handful of people knew. One of them was Ethan. "Tell me exactly what's happening." The scientist swallowed hard. "They aren't sick." Marcus felt his stomach tighten. "What? They're dead." Silence. Marcus thought he had misheard. "Ethan? They died." The scientist's voice cracked. Then they came back. Marcus stared at the city outside. The chaos, the smoke, the screaming crowds, the emergency alerts. Suddenly, none of it felt unreal anymore. "They're spreading the infection through bites." Marcus gripped the phone tighter. "How bad is it?" A distant explosion echoed through Ethan's line. People screamed. Gunfire erupted. Then Ethan answered. "Worse than anyone imagined." The call disconnected. Marcus tried calling back. No answer. Again, nothing. For several moments, he stood frozen. Then the building shook violently. The entire ballroom gasped. A massive explosion erupted somewhere below. The lights flickered. Screams filled the room. Marcus rushed to the windows. A city bus had crashed into the front entrance of the tower. People poured from surrounding streets. Many were running away. Others were chasing them. The pursuers moved strangely. Fast, aggressivum, relentless. One fleeing woman fell. The crowd behind her descended instantly. Marcus looked away in horror. Blood covered the pavement. The nightmare had arrived, and it was only beginning. Marcus stood frozen beside the massive window as chaos swallowed the streets below. Every instinct told him to keep watching, but every second made the scene more horrifying. The city he had spent years helping build was collapsing in real time. The ballroom had become a storm of panic. Investors pushed toward exits. Employees cried while trying to call loved ones. Security guards shouted conflicting instructions. News broadcasts played from dozens of phones simultaneously. No one cared about the billion-dollar deal anymore. Money had suddenly become meaningless. Tasha grabbed Marcus by the arm. "We need to leave." Marcus blinked. "What?" "The building. Right now." Another violent impact shook the tower. Several people screamed. A chandelier swung dangerously overhead. Marcus finally pulled himself away from the window. "Get everyone to the emergency elevators." Tasha shook her head. Elevators are already shutting down. As if on cue, the lights flickered again. A computerized voice echoed through the building. Emergency lockdown initiated. Emergency lockdown initiated. The room exploded with confusion. What does that mean? Why are the doors locking? Someone tell me what's happening. Marcus looked toward the main entrance. Heavy security barriers were sliding into place. The building was sealing itself. A security chief rushed into the ballroom. His face was pale. We have infected individuals inside the lower levels. The room fell silent. Everyone stared at him. Someone whispered the question everyone feared. Infected? The security chief swallowed. People are attacking staff members. A woman laughed nervously. You mean rioters? The guard didn't answer immediately. That silence told everyone everything. They're biting people. The room erupted. Several people began crying. Others rushed toward emergency exits. Marcus felt his heart pounding harder than ever before. He had faced hostile takeovers, corporate sabotage, economic crashes. None of that prepared him for this. His phone vibrated again. This time it was his younger sister, Angela. Angela. Her voice trembled. Marcus, where are you? At headquarters. You need to get out. I'm trying. In the background, he heard sirens, then screaming, then gunshots. His stomach tightened. Where are you? At home. Stay there. We can't. Marcus frowned. What do you mean? They're outside. For several seconds, he couldn't speak. Angela lived across the city with her husband and 2 children. The thought of zombies reaching them already felt impossible. Yet here they were. They're on our street, she whispered. Marcus closed his eyes. Lock every door. We already did. Stay away from the windows. One of the children began crying in the background. Angela tried calming them. Her own fear leaked into every word. Marcus, yeah? Please come. The request shattered something inside him. For years, business had consumed his life. Meetings, investments, acquisitions, quarterly reports. He always promised there would be more time later. More family dinners, more birthdays, more holidays. Now later might never come. I'm coming. The line went silent. Then Angela whispered, Be careful. The call ended. Marcus looked around the room. The company he'd built was falling apart around him. But his priorities had changed. Family came first. Everything else could burn. Tasha approached. What now? Marcus took a deep breath. We get out. How? The security chief overheard. There's a service stairwell connected to the executive parking garage. Marcus nodded. Take us there. The guard hesitated. Marcus immediately noticed. What? The guard looked uncomfortable. There were reports from the garage. Marcus felt dread creeping into his chest. What kind of reports? The answer came before the guard could speak. A scream echoed from somewhere beyond the ballroom. Not a normal scream, a terrified scream. Then another. Then several more. The entire floor went silent. Everyone listened. A distant crashing sound followed. Then running footsteps, fast footsteps. Getting closer, the security chief drew his handgun. Oh God! The ballroom doors burst open. A blood-covered man stumbled inside. People gasped. The man wore a maintenance uniform. Half his face had been torn away. Blood soaked his chest. His eyes were cloudy white. His jaw hung unnaturally loose. For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then the creature let out a guttural growl. Chaos exploded. The zombie lunged toward the nearest person. A businessman barely dodged. The creature crashed into a table. People screamed and scattered. The security chief fired. The bullet struck the zombie's chest. Nothing happened. The creature kept moving. Another shot. Another chest hit. Still nothing. The guard panicked. What the hell? Marcus remembered Ethan's warning. They're dead. Then they came back. The security chief fired again. This time the bullet struck the creature's head. The zombie collapsed instantly. Silence. Everyone stared. The creature stopped moving. Marcus understood immediately. Headshots. The guard nodded. Headshots. Unfortunately, the nightmare wasn't finished. More growls echoed from the hallway, dozens of them. The security chief's face lost all color. Oh no. The corridor filled with figures, employees, visitors, security personnel, all covered in blood, all walking toward the ballroom. The infected had reached their floor. Panic erupted again. People pushed each other, trying to escape. Several fell. Others climbed over them. The security team opened fire. Gunshots thundered through the room. Zombies dropped one after another. But more kept coming. There were too many. Marcus grabbed Tasha. Move. They rushed toward a side exit. Several executives followed. The security chief led them through a narrow hallway. Behind them, the ballroom descended into complete madness. Screams echoed endlessly. Marcus forced himself not to look back. The group reached a stairwell door. The guard shoved it open. Down. Everyone flooded inside. The stairwell stretched dozens of floors below. People stumbled over each other descending. Marcus counted roughly 15 survivors. That was all. Hundreds had attended the announcement. Only a fraction escaped. As they descended, distant screams echoed through the tower. Entire floors were being overrun. The infection was spreading upward, floor by floor, person by person. The city outside wasn't the only battlefield anymore. The skyscraper itself had become a trap. 30 floors down, the group stopped briefly. Several people were exhausted. One executive sat on a step gasping for breath. I can't keep going. Marcus knelt beside him. You have to. The man shook his head. I'm 58 years old. Another scream echoed above them. Closer this time. Marcus looked upward. Something was moving through the stairwell. Fast. The security chief immediately reacted. Everybody move. The survivors started descending again. The sound grew louder. Footsteps. Dozens of footsteps. The infected had found them. The chase was on. People began running. Some stumbled. Others cried. The stairwell transformed into a desperate race for survival. Marcus pushed himself harder than ever. 20 floors. 15 floors. 10 floors. The sounds behind them grew closer. A woman screamed above. Marcus looked back. 3 zombies had reached the rear of the group. One survivor disappeared beneath them. His screams ended quickly. The rest kept running. Nobody could help him. Nobody could stop. 5 floors, 4. 3. The parking garage level finally appeared below. Hope surged through the group. The security chief reached the door first. He shoved it open, then froze. Marcus immediately knew something was wrong. What is it? The guards stared into the garage. Hundreds of abandoned vehicles filled the concrete structure. Broken windows, blood trails, bodies, and moving among them, zombies. Dozens, maybe hundreds. The garage wasn't an escape. It was another nightmare. The guards slowly backed away. We need another route. Before anyone could answer, a growl echoed from above. The infected from the stairwell had arrived. Marcus looked up, then down. Death waited in both directions. For the first time since the outbreak began, he realized a terrifying truth. There might not be any safe place left in the city. For one terrifying moment, nobody moved. The survivors stood trapped between 2 nightmares. Above them, the infected were pouring down the stairwell. Below them, the parking garage crawled with zombies. Fear froze every face. Marcus forced himself to think. Panic would kill them faster than zombies. We're not staying here. The security chief nodded nervously. We need another exit. A young executive pointed toward a maintenance corridor connected to the garage. There. Everyone turned. A narrow service hallway disappeared into darkness. The guard immediately moved toward it. That's our best chance. The first zombie appeared at the top of the stairwell, then another. Then 5 more. The creatures spotted the survivors instantly. Their growls echoed through the concrete chamber. Run! The group exploded into motion. Marcus sprinted beside Tasha as the infected rushed down the stairs behind them. The maintenance hallway was barely wide enough for 2 people side by side. Dim emergency lights flickered overhead. The corridors seemed endless. Footsteps thundered behind them. People gasped for breath. Several survivors cried openly. Nobody cared anymore. The world had ended. After nearly 2 minutes of running, the corridor opened into a large underground utility section beneath the city. Massive pipes lined the walls. Steam hissed from overhead vents. The place looked like a maze. The security chief smiled for the first time. This connects to the subway tunnels. Marcus looked around. You sure? The guard nodded. I worked emergency response years ago. For the first time since leaving the ballroom, hope appeared. Subway tunnels could lead them away from the infected, away from downtown, away from the chaos. A loud crash interrupted his thoughts. The zombies had entered the utility area. The chase continued. The survivors rushed deeper into the underground network. Every turn looked identical. Every tunnel felt endless. Minutes passed. Then something strange happened. The growls behind them stopped. Everyone slowed. Silence filled the tunnels. No footsteps, no screams, nothing. The sudden quiet felt even more terrifying. Tasha looked around nervously. Where did they go? Nobody answered. The security chief raised his weapon. His eyes scanned the darkness. Stay alert. Steam drifted through the tunnels. Shadows moved strangely against the walls. Marcus's heartbeat pounded in his ears. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. Then they heard it. A distant voice. Human, faint. Help! Everyone froze. The voice echoed again. Please help me. A survivor. Someone alive. The group exchanged uncertain looks. The voice came from a nearby tunnel. Marcus stepped forward. We should help. The security chief hesitated. It could be dangerous. The voice returned, closer now. I don't want to die. Marcus made his decision. This way. The survivors followed. They moved cautiously through the darkness. The voice grew louder, more desperate. Eventually, they reached a maintenance room. The door was partially open. Inside, a teenage boy sat trembling against a wall. His clothes were dirty. His face streaked with tears. When he saw the group, relief flooded his expression. Oh, thank God. Marcus approached slowly. You alone? The boy nodded. I got separated from my parents. Tosh crouched beside him. Are you hurt? The teenager looked away. The hesitation lasted less than a second. But Marcus noticed, so did the security chief. The guard immediately stepped forward. Show me your arms. The boy froze. Fear filled his eyes. Why? The guard raised his weapon slightly. Show me. Nobody breathed. Slowly, the teenager rolled up his sleeve. A bite mark covered his forearm. Fresh, bloody. The room fell silent. The boy began crying. I'm sorry. Marcus closed his eyes. The security chief looked devastated. The kid couldn't have been older than 16. I'm sorry, the teenager repeated. I didn't want to be alone. Tasha started crying. The boy looked at Marcus. Pure terror filled his face. Am I going to turn? Nobody answered, because everyone already knew. The boy's tears flowed freely. I don't want to become one of them. Marcus felt his chest tighten. The teenager reminded him of his nephew, the same age, the same hopeful eyes, the same future. Or at least the future he should have had. The boy's voice cracked. Please. No one knew what to say. Minutes earlier, they had been strangers. Now they were witnessing a death sentence. The security chief finally spoke. We have to go. The teenager nodded slowly. He understood. The infection had already begun. His fate was sealed. Marcus reached into his pocket and removed a family photograph he carried in his wallet. On the back was a blank space. He found a pen nearby. What are you doing? Tasha asked. Marcus handed the boy the photo. Write their names. The teenager stared at him. Your parents. The boy's hands shook. He slowly wrote 2 names, David Carter, Sarah Carter. Marcus folded the photograph carefully. If we find them, the boy smiled sadly. You won't. Nobody argued deep down. Everyone knew he was right. The teenager stood. Tears still rolled down his face. Thank you for stopping. Marcus extended his hand. The boy shook it. For a brief moment, they simply looked at each other. Then the teenager stepped backward into the maintenance room. He slowly closed the door. The lock clicked. Tasha began sobbing. Marcus stared at the door. Seconds later, a single gunshot echoed through the tunnel. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The silence afterward felt heavier than any scream. Finally, the security chief turned away. "We need to keep moving." The survivors continued deeper into the underground network. But something had changed. The reality of the outbreak was no longer distant, no longer abstract. The infection wasn't just killing people. It was stealing futures, families, dreams, entire lives. Horrors seemed to pass underground. Eventually, the tunnels opened into an abandoned subway platform. Old train cars sat motionless on rusted tracks. Emergency lights cast eerie shadows across the station. The place looked deserted at first. Then Marcus spotted movement. People leaving. People. Nearly 40 survivors occupied the station. Families, police officers, construction workers, students. For the first time all day, genuine relief spread through the group. They weren't alone. A woman noticed them first. More survivors. People rushed over. Questions flew immediately. "Where did you come from? How bad is it outside? Is the military coming?" Marcus wished he had answers. Instead, he found himself asking a question. "Who's in charge here?" An older man stepped forward. Former military. The posture made it obvious. "My name is Colonel Harris." Marcus introduced himself. The colonel's expression changed. "The CEO?" Marcus nodded. The colonel laughed bitterly. "Funny." "What? 12 hours ago, everyone knew your name because of business news." He looked around the station. Now none of that matters. Marcus couldn't disagree. The world, before sunrise, already felt like ancient history. The colonel pointed toward a large subway map. "We're planning a route out of the city." Marcus studied it. "Where?" "North." "Why north?" The colonel's face darkened. "Because every radio transmission says the southern districts have already fallen." The words sent chills through the station. Several survivors overheard. Fear spread instantly. "Fallen? What does that mean?" The colonel looked exhausted. "It means there are no responders left." Silence followed. Then a loud metallic sound echoed from somewhere far down the tracks. Everyone froze. The noise came again. Closer, a scraping sound, like something dragging itself across steel. The colonel slowly raised his rifle. His expression told Marcus everything. Whatever was coming. It wasn't human anymore. The scraping sound echoed through the abandoned subway station. Once, twice, then again. Every survivor turned toward the dark tunnel. Nobody spoke. Nobody breathed. The station suddenly felt smaller. The darkness beyond the tracks seemed alive. Colonel Harris slowly lifted his rifle. Lights. Several survivors aimed flashlights into the tunnel. White beams cut through the darkness. For a moment, they revealed nothing. Then something moved. Fast. A shadow disappeared behind a concrete support column. Gasps spread through the crowd. A little girl buried her face in her mother's shoulder. The scraping sound returned. Closer this time. Marcus felt his pulse racing. "What is that?" The colonel didn't answer. Because he didn't know. Nobody did. The outbreak had only existed for a few hours. The rules were still being written. The darkness shifted again. Then a figure stumbled into the flashlight beams. A man. At least he had once been. His body was twisted unnaturally. Half his face was missing. One arm hung uselessly from his shoulder. Yet somehow he was still moving. Still walking. Still hunting. The zombie let out a low growl. Then another figure appeared behind him. Then another. Then 10 more. A collective wave of fear swept through the station. The tunnel wasn't occupied by a few infected. It was filled with them. Hundreds. The darkness itself seemed to be moving. "Oh God," someone whispered. The zombies spotted the survivors. Their growls instantly became louder. More aggressive. More hungry. The sound echoed through the station like a nightmare. Then they charged. Fire. Gunshots exploded across the platform. Police officers, former soldiers, armed civilians. Everyone opened fire simultaneously. Several zombies dropped, others kept running. Headshots worked. Baiting shots didn't. The problem was numbers. There were simply too many. The infected flooded onto the tracks, climbing over each other, tripping, crawling, charging forward relentlessly. Marcus grabbed Tasha. "We need to move." The colonel nodded. "Everybody to the north tunnel." Panic returned instantly. Families gathered children. Survivors grabbed supplies. The entire station erupted into movement. Gunfire continued. More zombies fell, yet dozens replaced everyone that died. Marcus ran alongside the crowd toward the northern tunnel. Behind him, the battle intensified. People screamed. Weapons emptied. The infected closed the distance. A police officer slipped near the tracks. 3 zombies reached him instantly. His screams echoed through the station, then disappeared. The survivors kept running. Nobody could stop. Nobody could help. The tunnel stretched endlessly ahead. Dim maintenance lights flickered overhead. Hundreds of footsteps echoed through the darkness. Marcus stayed close to Tasha and Colonel Harris. The former soldier constantly scanned behind them. Years of training kept him focused, even now. Especially now. After nearly 15 minutes of running, the group emerged into another underground maintenance hub. Everyone stopped briefly to catch their breath. The colonel immediately counted heads. His face darkened. "We lost 12. Silence followed. Nobody needed names. Everyone understood. Every loss hurt. Every death mattered. Yet the apocalypse left no time for grief. Marcus leaned against a wall. Sweat covered his face. His expensive suits was stained with dirt and blood. Hours ago, he had been preparing for the biggest business announcement of his life. Now he was fighting to survive. The contrast felt surreal. Tasha handed him a bottle of water. "Still thinking about your sister?" Marcus nodded. Every minute increased the distance between them. Every minute reduced the chance of reaching her alive. He pulled out his phone. No signal, nothing. The city network had collapsed. The realization felt like a knife in his chest. For all he knew, Angela and her children were all ready. Marcus forced the thought away. He couldn't afford it. Not now. Not here. Suddenly, one of the survivors shouted, "Wait!" Everyone looked over. A young woman pointed toward a maintenance office. Light glowed beneath the door. The group exchanged nervous glances. Someone was inside. Colonel Harris raised his rifle. "Stay back." The survivors formed a defensive line. The colonel approached carefully. The door remained closed. The light still glowed beneath it. "Who's in there?" No answer. The survivors grew tense. The colonel knocked harder. "Identify yourself." Several seconds passed. Then a voice answered, weak, shaking. "Please don't shoot." Relief swept through the group. A survivor, the door slowly opened. Inside stood an elderly janitor, perhaps 70 years old. His uniform was stained with dust. Tears filled his eyes. When he saw the crowd, he nearly collapsed from relief. "You're alive." Several survivors helped him sit down. The old man wiped his face. "I thought I was the last one." Colonel Harris crouched beside him. "How long have you been here?" "Since this morning." The station grew quiet. Everyone listened. The old man took a shaky breath. "I saw it happen." Marcus looked up. "What happened?" The janitor stared into the distance, like he was reliving the memory. "The first infected came through the subway around dawn." Nobody interrupted. The old man's voice trembled. "One person attacked another." He swallowed hard. "Then another." His hand shook. And another. The room remained silent. It spread faster than fire. Marcus could see the horror in the man's eyes. The trauma, the guilt, the helplessness. "I watched hundreds die." The janitor looked toward the floor. "Then I hid." Nobody judged him. They understood. Every survivor carried scars already. Horrors had aged them years. Suddenly, the old man remembered something. His eyes widened. "Wait." The colonel frowned. "What?" The janitor pointed deeper into the maintenance office. There were military broadcasts. Everyone moved closer immediately. Hope surged through the room. Military broadcasts meant information. Information meant survival. The old man retrieved a portable radio. Its batteries were nearly dead. Static crackled from the speaker. Then a voice emerged, broken, distorted, but recognizable. A military officer. All civilians advised to evacuate major metropolitan areas. Static interrupted. Containment efforts unsuccessful. More static. The room grew colder. Marcus exchanged a glance with the colonel. Neither liked what they were hearing. The radio crackled again. Safe zone established. Everyone leaned forward. The signal weakened. Fort Liberty. Static swallowed the rest. Then silence. The survivors stared at one another. A safe zone. A real safe zone. The first piece of good news all day. Colonel Harris immediately unfolded a map. Fort Liberty. Marcus looked over his shoulder. Where is it? The colonel pointed. Nearly 100 miles north. A long distance under normal circumstances. An impossible distance during the apocalypse. Yet nobody complained. Because it was hope. And hope had become priceless. The colonel stood. We move immediately. The group nodded. For the first time since the outbreak began, they had a destination, a goal, a chance. The survivors gathered supplies and prepared to leave. Marcus helped the elderly janitor stand. The old man smiled weakly. Never thought I'd be part of something like this. Marcus almost laughed. None of them had. Then a loud explosion shook the tunnel network. The ground trembled violently. Dust rained from the ceiling. People screamed. Several lights exploded overhead. Darkness swallowed part of the corridor. The survivors looked around in shock. What was that? Nobody knew. Then another sound followed. A deep rumbling noise. Not underground. Above them, the city itself. Collapsing, burning, dying. And somewhere in that dying city, Marcus's sister was still waiting for him. If she was still alive, Marcus clenched his fists. No matter what stood between them, no matter how many zombies filled the streets, he would reach her or die trying. And unknown to Marcus, far above the tunnels, something even worse than ordinary zombies had just awakened inside a government quarantine facility. Something faster. Something smarter. Something that could hunt. The outbreak was evolving, and humanity wasn't ready. The survivors left the maintenance hub less than 10 minutes later. Nobody wanted to remain underground longer than necessary. The radio message had given them a goal. Fort Liberty, 100 miles north. It sounded impossibly far away, yet it was the only hope anyone had. Colonel Harris led the group through a network of service tunnels connected to the subway system. Marcus walked near the front. Tasha stayed beside him. The elderly janitor, whose name turned out to be Walter, struggled to keep pace but refused to complain. Every survivor carried something: backpacks, tools, food, medical supplies. The world had transformed into a place where every item mattered. Hours passed. The deeper they traveled, the quieter things became. No screams, no gunfire, no growling zombies. Only footsteps echoing through endless concrete corridors. The silence felt unnatural, like the city itself was holding its breath. Eventually, the tunnel sloped upward. Fresh air drifted through the darkness. Everyone noticed immediately. The exit couldn't be far away. Hope spread through the group. A few minutes later, they reached a rusted maintenance hatch. Colonel Harris climbed first. Carefully, slowly, he pushed the hatch open. Sunlight flooded the tunnel. The survivors shielded their eyes. After spending hours underground, daylight felt strange, almost foreign. The colonel scanned the area above, then nodded. Clear. One by one, the survivors emerged onto the surface. Marcus climbed out and froze. The city was unrecognizable. Smoke covered the horizon. Buildings burned. Abandoned vehicles littered the roads. Storefronts were shattered. Emergency sirens wailed in the distance. Yet there was something even more disturbing: the silence. A city of millions had become eerily quiet. No traffic, no crowds, no normal life. Only destruction. The outbreak had consumed everything. Walter looked around sadly. This place used to be beautiful. Nobody disagreed. The group moved cautiously through side streets, avoiding main roads, avoiding noise, avoiding attention. Every intersection felt dangerous. Every shadow seemed threatening. After nearly an hour of careful travel, they found a sporting goods warehouse. Its doors were partially open. The building appeared abandoned. Colonel Harris signaled everyone to stop. "We check it first." Several armed survivors entered carefully. Marcus waited outside. His thoughts immediately drifted toward Angela. Every passing hour felt unbearable. What if she needed help right now? What if she was trapped? What if the warehouse team returned? It's clear. Relief spread through the group. For the first time all day, they had a secure place to rest, at least temporarily. The survivors entered. Inside, shelves stretched across a massive storage floor, camping gear, bottled water, flashlights, backpacks. The place felt like a treasure trove. People immediately began collecting supplies. Colonel Harris organized everything with military efficiency. Food first, medical supplies second, tools third. Marcus helped carry boxes. The physical work distracted him from fear, at least for a little while. Suddenly, one of the survivors shouted, "Generator!" Several people gathered near the back of the warehouse. A portable generator sat untouched. Beside it were emergency batteries. The discovery felt miraculous. Within minutes, they had lights running, phones charging, radio equipment operating. For the first time since the outbreak began, the warehouse felt almost normal. Almost. The illusion didn't last. A radio transmission suddenly crackled through the speakers. Everyone turned immediately. The signal was weak but understandable. "This is emergency military broadcast." The room fell silent. The voice continued. "All civilians advised to avoid infected individuals." Static interrupted briefly. "Head trauma remains the most effective method." Several survivors exchanged nervous looks. Confirmation. Official confirmation. The zombies were real. The military knew. The government knew. The entire nightmare was real. The radio crackled again. "Quarantine zones compromised." The room grew tense. Repeat. Static. "Quarantine zones compromised." Colonel Harris frowned. "That wasn't good. Not good at all." The broadcast continued. "New infected variants observed." The entire warehouse froze. Marcus looked up. Variants? Nobody liked that word. The radio voice sounded exhausted. "Infected, displaying enhanced speed and coordination," Tasha whispered. "Enhanced?" The transmission continued. "Extreme caution advised." Then silence. The signal disappeared. Nobody spoke, because everyone understood the implication. The zombies were changing, evolving, getting worse. Walter slowly sat down. "That's impossible." Unfortunately, impossible had become normal. One survivor laughed nervously. "We've already got Walking Dead people." Nobody responded, because he wasn't wrong. Marcus walked toward a dusty office overlooking the warehouse floor. He needed a moment alone. The weight of everything felt overwhelming. The city, his family, the survivors, the outbreak, the responsibility. It all pressed against him simultaneously. He sat behind an old desk. For the first time all day, exhaustion caught up with him. His eyes closed. Just for a moment, then his phone vibrated. Marcus nearly jumped. He stared at the screen. One bar of signal, one message. His heart stopped. "Angela." The text was short, painfully. "Short, Marcus. We're hiding. They're inside the building. Please hurry." The timestamp showed it had been sent 40 minutes earlier. His blood ran cold. 40 minutes. Anything could have happened in 40 minutes. Marcus immediately called. No answer. "Egan?" Nothing. "Egan?" Straight to voicemail. Fear slammed into him like a truck. He rushed downstairs. Colonel Harris immediately noticed. "What happened?" Marcus showed him the message. The colonel read it silently, then sighed. "You want to go?" Marcus nodded. "She's my sister." The room fell quiet. Everyone understood. Family changed everything. The colonel rubbed his forehead. "Where is she?" Marcus gave the address. Several survivors exchanged worried looks. The location sat deep inside one of the most heavily populated districts in the city, a terrible place during an outbreak, practically suicide. The colonel looked torn. Finally, he spoke. "We leave for Fort Liberty at sunrise." Marcus already knew where this was going. "If you go after her, you won't make it back in time." Silence followed. Marcus looked around the warehouse, at the frightened survivors, at Walter, at Tasha, at the exhausted families. Part of him understood the colonel's position. The group couldn't risk everyone for one rescue mission. But Angela wasn't just one person. She was family, his family. Tasha stepped forward. "I'm going with him." Marcus looked at her. "You don't have to." She smiled faintly. "You're not doing this alone." Several seconds passed. Then another voice spoke. "So am I." Colonel Harris. The former soldier grabbed his rifle. Marcus blinked. "What?" The colonel shrugged. "I'm too old to let a man rescue his family by himself." A few survivors volunteered as well. Soon a small team stood assembled. 6 people total. Dangerous, but manageable. The colonel looked around the warehouse. "We leave in 10 minutes." Marcus felt gratitude he couldn't put into words. For the first time since the outbreak began, he wasn't fighting alone. The rescue team prepared quickly. Weapons, flashlights, food, medical supplies. Everything they could carry. As the sun slowly descended outside, Marcus stared toward the distant skyline. Somewhere beyond the smoke and destruction, Angela was waiting, if she was still alive. He refused to consider any other possibility, because if he lost hope now, he would lose everything. And far across the city, inside a ruined government research facility, a steel containment door slowly bent outward. Something powerful stood behind it. Something infected. Something intelligent. And when the metal finally tore apart, even the zombies nearby moved away. As if they were afraid, the next stage of the apocalypse had begun. Night had fully fallen over the ruined city. The streets were darker now, but not quieter. Distant screams still echoed between broken buildings. Occasional gunfire cracked through the silence like dying lightning. Marcus's rescue team moved carefully through the shadows. 6 people, 1 mission. Angela. Colonel Harris led the way with controlled precision, rifle raised, scanning every corner like danger itself might step out at any second. Tasha stayed close to Marcus, flashlight angled low. Walter had insisted on coming too. "I know the streets," he had said. Now he walked with shaking legs but steady determination. They had no vehicles. Fuel was too risky. Noise was deadly. So they moved on foot, cutting through alleyways and abandoned side roads. Every few minutes, they stopped to listen. Every sound mattered. Every mistake could be their last. After nearly 40 minutes of moving, Colonel Harris raised his fist. The team froze. Ahead was Angela's apartment district. But it looked worse than anything they had seen so far. Entire buildings were burned-out shells. Cars were flipped or crushed. Windows flickered with dying emergency lights. And worse, there were bodies. Too many to count, some still, some not. Marcus swallowed hard. "This is it." Tasha looked at him. "Are you sure she's here?" Marcus nodded. "She texted from this building." He pointed toward a tall residential complex. Half of its lower floors were collapsed inward. Smoke drifted from the upper windows. Walter whispered, "If she's inside, we need to move fast." Colonel Harris studied the entrance. Too quiet. That was never good. 2 by 2, he ordered. "Stay silent. No mistakes." They entered. The lobby was destroyed. Glass covered the floor. Blood streaked the walls like handprints that had been dragged too far. Elevators were dead. Emergency lights flickered weakly. Marcus led the group toward the stairwell. Step by step, floor by floor, the silence inside the building felt unnatural, until a faint sound, crying. Marcus froze instantly. Tasha grabbed his arm. "Do you hear that?" "Yes." "A child. Somewhere above them?" Colonel Harris raised his hand. "Stop." The crying continued, soft, terrified. "Mom." A small voice whispered. Marcus's heart tightened. Angela had children, her kids. The sound came from the 9th floor. They moved faster now, carefully but urgently. 8th floor, point 7th floor. The crying grew louder. Then, a new sound, dragging footsteps, wet, heavy. Colonel Harris motioned everyone back. They pressed against the wall. Something was coming down the hallway above. Slow, deliberate. Then it appeared, a woman, or what used to be one. Her jaw hung open unnaturally. Her eyes were milky white. Blood soaked her nightdress. She dragged a broken arm behind her like it belonged to someone else. She stopped, sniffed the air, then tilted her head. Marcus whispered, "Infected." Colonel Harris didn't hesitate. One shot, silent, clean. The zombie dropped instantly. But the sound of the gunshot changed everything from above. A loud crash, then another. Then screaming. Tasha's eyes widened. They heard it. Colonel Harris stood. "Move! Now!" They rushed upward, 9th floor. The hallway was chaos. Doors broken open. Furniture overturned. Blood trails leading everywhere. And in the center, a small boy stood frozen. Maybe 6 years old, crying. Surrounded by 2 zombies approaching slowly. Marcus didn't think. He ran. "Tasha!" He grabbed the child and pulled him back just as one zombie lunged. Colonel Harris fired instantly. One headshot, then another. Tasha guided Marcus backward. "Go! Go!" The boy clung to Marcus's shirt. "Mommy. Mommy." Marcus didn't answer because he saw the truth immediately. Angela's apartment door was open. Wide open, died from the inside. Marcus stepped forward slowly. "Angela?" Tasha grabbed his arm. "Wait." But he already knew. Something inside had changed the room into a slaughterhouse. Blood on the walls. Furniture shattered. A broken family photo on the floor. Colonel Harris checked inside carefully. Then he stopped. Silence. Marcus couldn't breathe. "What do you see?" The colonel didn't answer right away. Then finally, "No bodies." Hope flickered instantly. Tasha turned. "What does that mean?" Walter whispered. "Maybe she escaped." Marcus rushed into the apartment. "Angela." No answer. He searched every room. Nothing. But then, a sound from the balcony. A weak knock. Marcus ran. The balcony door was cracked. He pushed it open. And there she was. Angela, alive, but barely standing. Her arm was bleeding. Her face was pale, and behind her, 2 infected trapped against the balcony railing. Scratching, growling, trying to break through. Angela collapsed into Marcus's arms. "I thought you weren't coming." Marcus held her tightly. "I'm here now." Tasha quickly pulled the children inside. Colonel Harris eliminated the trapped infected with 2 precise shots. Silence returned, but it didn't last long, because far below in the street, a loud, unnatural roar echoed through the entire district. Not human, not zombie, something else. Colonel Harris looked down from the balcony. His face went pale. "Oh no." Marcus followed his gaze. At the end of the street, a massive shape moved through the darkness. Too tall, too fast, too intelligent. It wasn't wandering, it was searching. And it was heading straight for the building. The evolved infected had found them. Night had fully fallen over the ruined city. The streets were darker now, but not quieter. Distant screams still echoed between broken buildings. Occasional gunfire cracked through the silence like dying lightning. Marcus's rescue team moved carefully through the shadows. 6 people. 1 mission. Angela, Colonel Harris led the way with controlled precision, rifle raised, scanning every corner like danger itself might step out at any second. Tasha stayed close to Marcus, flashlight angled low. Walter had insisted on coming too. "I know the streets," he had said. Now he walked with shaking legs but steady determination. They had no vehicles. Fuel was too risky. Noise was deadly. So they moved on foot, cutting through alleyways and abandoned side roads. Every few minutes, they stopped to listen. Every sound mattered. Every mistake could be their last. After nearly 40 minutes of moving, Colonel Harris raised his fist. The team froze. Ahead was Angela's apartment district, but it looked worse than anything they had seen so far. Entire buildings were burned out shells. Cars were flipped or crushed. London flickered with dying emergency lights. And worse, there were bodies. Too many to count, some still, some not. Marcus swallowed hard. This is it. Tasha looked at him. Are you sure she's here? Marcus nodded. She texted from this building. He pointed toward a tall residential complex. Half of its lower floors were collapsed inward. Smoke drifted from the upper windows. Walter whispered, If she's inside, we need to move fast. Colonel Harris studied the entrance. Too quiet. That was never good. 2 by 2, he ordered. Stay silent. No mistakes. They entered. The lobby was destroyed. Glass covered the floor. Blood streaked the walls like handprints that had been dragged too far. Elevators were dead. Emergency lights flickered weakly. Marcus led the group toward the stairwell, step by step, floor by floor. The silence inside the building felt unnatural, until a faint sound, crying. Marcus froze instantly. Tasha grabbed his arm. Do you hear that? Yes? A child somewhere above them? Colonel Harris raised his hand. Stop. The crying continued, soft, terrified. Mom, a small voice whispered. Marcus's heart tightened. Angela had children. Her kids, the sound came from the 9th floor. They moved faster now, carefully but urgently. 8th floor, 7th floor. The crying grew louder. Then, a new sound, dragging footsteps, wet, heavy. Colonel Harris motioned everyone back. They pressed against the wall. Something was coming down the hallway above, slow, deliberate. Then it appeared. A woman, or what used to be one. Her jaw hung open unnaturally. Her eyes were milky white. Blood soaked her nightdress. She dragged a broken arm behind her like it belonged to someone else. She stopped, sniffed the air. Then tilted her head. Marcus whispered, infected. Colonel Harris didn't hesitate. One shot, silent, clean. The zombie dropped instantly, but the sound of the gunshot changed everything. From above, a loud crash, then another, then screaming. Tasha's eyes widened. They heard it. Colonel Harris stood. Move! Now! They rushed upward. 9th floor. The hallway was chaos. Doors broken open. Furniture overturned. Blood trails leading everywhere. And in the center, a small boy stood frozen, maybe 6 years old, crying, surrounded by 2 zombies approaching slowly. Marcus didn't think. He ran. Tasha, cover me! He grabbed the child and pulled him back just as one zombie lunged. Colonel Harris fired instantly, one headshot, then another. Tasha guided Marcus backward. Go! Go! The boy clung to Marcus's shirt. Mommy! Mommy! Marcus didn't answer because he saw the truth immediately. Angela's apartment door was open, wide open, dazed from the inside. Marcus stepped forward slowly. Angela. Tasha grabbed his arm. Wait! But he already knew. Something inside had changed the room into a slaughterhouse. Blood on the walls. Furniture shattered. A broken family photo on the floor. Colonel Harris checked inside carefully. Then he stopped. Silence. Marcus couldn't breathe. What do you see? The colonel didn't answer right away. Then finally, no bodies. Hope flickered instantly. Tasha turned. What does that mean? Walter whispered. Maybe she escaped. Marcus rushed into the apartment. Angela. No answer. He searched every room. Nothing. But then, a sound from the balcony. A weak knock. Marcus ran. The balcony door was cracked. He pushed it open. And there she was, Angela, alive but barely standing. Her arm was bleeding. Her face was pale. And behind her, 2 infected trapped against the balcony railing, scratching, growling, trying to break through. Angela collapsed into Marcus's arms. I thought you weren't coming. Marcus held her tightly. I'm here now. Tasha quickly pulled the children inside. Colonel Harris eliminated the trapped infected with 2 precise shots. Silence returned, but it didn't last long, because far below in the street, a loud, unnatural roar echoed through the entire district. Not human, not zombie, something else. Colonel Harris looked down from the balcony. His face went pale. Oh no! Marcus followed his gaze. At the end of the street, a massive shape moved through the darkness. Too tall, too fast, too intelligent. It wasn't wandering, it was searching. And it was heading straight for the building. The evolved infected had found them. The hunter launched across the rooftop like a collapsing shadow. Colonel Harris fired instantly. One shot. 2, 3. The bullet struck its chest midair. But its body twisted unnaturally, absorbing impact like it was learning pain rather than feeling it. It landed anyway. Hard concrete cracked beneath its feet. The shockwave knocked everyone back. Angela screamed. Marcus barely caught himself on the edge of the roof. Tasha fell to her knees. Walter crawled backward in pure panic. The hunter slowly straightened and turned its head toward Colonel Harris. It tilted slightly. Observing then, it moved so fast it barely registered. Colonel Harris tried to fire again. The weapon was knocked aside before the trigger was pulled. A single strike, the rifle snapped in half. The colonel flew backward into the rooftop wall. Silence hit like a wall. The hunter didn't finish him. It wasn't interested in random killing. Its attention shifted back to Marcus. Creator. That word again. Marcus stood slowly. His hands were shaking, but his voice came out steady. Why are you doing this? The hunter paused. For the first time, it seemed to consider the question. Then it spoke again. Broken, distorted, but clearer than before. You made me. Marcus shook his head. No, I didn't. The creature stepped forward, each step heavier than the last. The roof trembled under its weight, behind Marcus. Angela pulled her children closer. Tasha whispered, You know this thing, don't you? Marcus didn't answer, because fragments of memory were surfacing. Restricted files, emergency funding approvals, a next-generation adaptive neural organism project. Something designed for battlefield resilience. Something meant to learn under extreme conditions. Something that was never supposed to leave containment. The hunter stopped a few meters away. It lowered its head slightly, like a predator studying prey. Then it said quietly, They lied to you. Marcus froze. The hunter continued. They built me. From dead things. A pause then, and I learned. Colonel Harris groaned on the ground but forced himself up. Marcus, what is it talking about? Marcus stared at the creature. His voice barely came out. It's a military bio-project. Tasha's eyes widened. You created this? I didn't create it, Marcus snapped. I funded a research division. I never approved, the hunter interrupted. You signed. Silence. That word hit harder than any bullet. Marcus's mind flashed the contract, the rushed briefing, the assurances. Just logistics support, they said. Just infrastructure funding. Nothing dangerous. Nothing experimental. But now, standing in front of him, was something that knew his name and blamed him. The hunter stepped closer again, this time slower. Intentional. Behind it, the edge of the roof crumbled under its weight. Angela whispered in fear. Marcus. The children were crying again. Tasha grabbed a broken metal pipe. Walter held a small flashlight, like it could protect him. Colonel Harris struggled to stand, bleeding but conscious. The hunter raised its head, then spoke one final time. I am not sick. A pause. I am not dead. Another step forward. I am evolution. It suddenly jerked its head toward the city skyline. As they will be. Marcus followed its gaze. In the distance, smoke columns were changing, moving differently. Too coordinated. Too structured. Like something was organizing them. Not chaos anymore. Something worse. Order. The hunter turned back. You will come with me. Marcus shook his head. No. The hunter didn't react emotionally. It simply stated, You belong to the beginning. Colonel Harris raised his weapon again, despite everything. Marcus, get everyone to the ladder. But the hunter moved first. It struck the ground. A shock wave exploded across the rooftop. The ladder structure snapped instantly. The escape route collapsed. Tasha screamed, We're trapped! The hunter's attention sharpened. Now there was no distraction, no exit, only them. It crouched again, preparing to end it. Marcus stepped forward. Wait. Everyone froze. Even the hunter paused. Marcus took a shaky breath. If I go with you, you leave them alive? Angela shook her head immediately. No, Marcus, don't. Tasha grabbed him. Are you insane? Colonel Harris spat blood. Don't negotiate with it. But Marcus didn't look away. He looked directly at the creature that knew his name. The hunter studied him, then slowly nodded. One goes. Silence. Marcus exhaled, then nodded. Me. The hunter's head tilted again. But this time, something unexpected happened. It stepped back, like agreement. Colonel Harris tried to raise his weapon, but his strength gave out. Tasha shouted, Marcus, no! Angela cried out, Don't leave us! Marcus looked at them one last time, then at the burning city, at everything he had built, everything he had lost, everything still falling apart. I'll find a way back. No one believed it, but he said it anyway. The hunter extended a hand. Marcus hesitated, then took it. The moment their skin touched, a surge of pain shot through his mind. Imes labs, dead bodies, containment failures. A voice saying, It learns faster when bonded to a human anchor. Marcus gasped. What did you do to me? The hunter whispered. Now you understand. And then, it jumped. Off the rooftop, into the burning city below, taking Marcus with it. Behind them, Angela's scream echoed into the night. And far away, something inside the outbreak changed again. Because now, the infection had a link, a controller, a king. And the city was about to learn what it meant when the dead stopped wandering and started thinking. The wind tore past Marcus's ears as they fell from the rooftop. For a split second, there was only weightlessness. Then, impact, but not the crash he expected. The hunter hit first. It absorbed the landing like something built for punishment, crouching into the shattered asphalt of a side street. Marcus rolled hard, slamming into a parked, burned-out car. Pain exploded through his ribs. He coughed, trying to breathe. Above him, the rooftop was gone in smoke and distance. Angela, Tasha, Colonel Harris. Gone from view. No! Marcus shouted, pushing himself up. The hunter stood calmly nearby, unharmed, watching, waiting. Marcus staggered forward. What are you doing to me? The creature tilted its head. You are stabilizing. Marcus shook his head violently. I'm not a lab sample. The hunter stepped closer. Not sample. A pause. Then, anchor. Sirens echoed somewhere in the distance. A helicopter passed overhead, but didn't stop. The city had stopped responding to anything that wasn't already burning. Marcus looked around. They were deep in a ruined district, Enfelli streets, collapsed storefronts, abandoned bodies, and movement in the shadows. Too many movements. The hunter noticed his gaze. They hear me. Marcus froze. You control them? The hunter didn't answer directly. Instead, it lifted its head slightly. A low-frequency sound rolled through the air. Not a roar, not a scream. Something deeper. A signal. Instantly, distant movement responded. Dishfashes in the streets stopped, turned, then began moving in one direction. Away, not toward Marcus, not toward the hunter. Organized, directed. Marcus felt a chill crawl up his spine. They're following you. The hunter finally looked at him fully. Yes, a beat. And now, you. Marcus backed up a step. I'm not following you anywhere. The hunter took one step forward. The ground cracked slightly under its weight. You already are. Marcus suddenly felt it again. That pressure in his mind, like something pulling at thoughts that weren't his. Fashes. Images that weren't his memories. The lab, a containment chamber, a body strapped down. Then his signature on a document. Then, something moving inside darkness, learning his face. Marcus dropped to one knee. Stop. The hunter knelt slightly to match him. Connections stabilizing. Marcus gritted his teeth. You're inside my head. Not inside, it corrected. Linked. A scream echoed in the distance, then gunfire. Then silence. The city was still collapsing, but now it felt different. Structured, like chaos being shaped. Marcus forced himself to focus. If you can control them, stop this. The hunter turned its head slightly. I am stopping nothing. Marcus looked up sharply. You said your evolution. Then fix it. The creature paused, then spoke quietly. This is not infection anymore. A pause. This is transition. Marcus felt dread tightening in his chest. Transition to what? The hunter stepped back, and for the first time, it looked almost solemn. Something that replaces you. Far away, the sky lit up with a sudden explosion. A military strike, then another. But something moved through the fire, unharmed, organized, responding. The hunter looked at Marcus again. They are adapting faster than expected. Marcus stood slowly, despite the pain. Who is they? The hunter's answer came without hesitation. The dead that learn. A silence followed. Then Marcus whispered, "And you started it." The hunter didn't deny it. Instead, it said, "I improved it." That was worse, far worse. A distant sound echoed through the street. Footsteps. Many. Approaching, Marcus turned. At the far end of the road, dozens of infected emerged. But they weren't stumbling. They weren't wandering. They were moving in formation. Not chaos. Purpose. Marcus backed up slowly. "They're organized." The hunter nodded. "Yes." Then it added, "And they are curious about you now." Marcus's heart dropped. "Why me?" The hunter turned slightly toward him. "Because I am not the only one who can lead them anymore." Another pause. "You are connected." Marcus felt cold realization creeping in. "That thing you did to me." The hunter stepped closer. "It allows them to recognize you," Marcus whispered. "So I'm a target," the hunter corrected him. "No, a beat. You are a signal." The infected group ahead stopped, all at once. Every head turned toward Marcus. Perfect synchronization, no noise, no chaos, just awareness. Marcus took a step back. Then another. The hunter spoke softly. "They are listening now." And then, every infected in sight took one step forward. In perfect unison, Marcus turned toward the hunter. "You have to fix this." For the first time, the creature hesitated, then said, "I cannot undo evolution." The infected began advancing slow, steady, controlled. Marcus backed away until his back hit a wall. "No, no, no." The hunter stepped between him and the approaching horde. Not to protect him, not exactly, but to observe, like a scientist watching an experiment reach its next phase. And then it said something that froze Marcus completely. "You are no longer prey." A pause. "You are infrastructure." The infected stopped 20 meters away waiting, watching Marcus. As if awaiting instruction, Marcus whispered, "What am I becoming?" The hunter answered calmly, "What I was meant to create." The street lights flickered. The infected waited. The city held its breath, and Marcus King realized. The apocalypse hadn't ended humanity. It had assigned him a role in what came next. And the worst part was, something inside him was starting to understand it. Marcus stood motionless, against the cracked wall, surrounded by silence that felt heavier than gunfire. The infected didn't move. They waited, perfectly still, like a crowd, holding its breath for a command that hadn't been spoken yet. Marcus swallowed hard. "I'm not giving them anything." The hunter tilted its head. "You already are." Marcus shook his head violently. "No, I'm not you. I'm not part of this." The hunter stepped closer. For the first time, its voice softened, not in emotion, but in certainty. "You don't understand yet." A pause. "Understanding is arriving." The infected ahead shifted slightly, not attacking, not retreating, reacting to him. Marcus felt it again. That pressure inside his mind, not pain now, something worse, awareness. Like something vast was trying to look through him instead of at him. He dropped to one knee. "Stop it." The hunter didn't move. "They are not controlling you," Marcus gasped. "Then what is this?" The hunter answered simply. "You are opening." A distant explosion lit the sky orange, then another. The military was still fighting somewhere out there, but it felt irrelevant now. Like noise from a dying world, the infected took one synchronized step forward. Marcus flinched. They stopped instantly, waiting again. Tasha's voice suddenly echoed in his memory. "You know this thing, don't you, Colonel Harris? What did you do, Angela? Don't leave us." Marcus closed his eyes tightly. "No, no, no." The hunter crouched slightly so it was level with him. "Focus." Marcus laughed weakly. Focus? I'm about to be turned into a broadcast signal for monsters. The hunter corrected him again. Not monsters. A pause. System. That word hit differently. Marcus opened his eyes slowly. What system? The hunter turned its head toward the infected crowd. They were chaotic. Another pause. Now they are responsive. Marcus whispered, You made them a network. The hunter nodded once. Yes. Marcus felt sick. And I'm part of it now. The hunter didn't deny it. Instead, you are the missing layer. A sound echoed down the street. More infected arriving. More coordination forming. The crowd ahead expanded, forming a wider semicircle around Marcus. Not attacking, positioning, observing. Like they were learning distance, learning him. Marcus forced himself to stand. If I'm part of this, then I can shut it down. The hunter paused. For the first time, something like uncertainty flickered in its posture. You cannot shut what is becoming. Marcus stepped forward anyway. I can try. The infected reacted immediately. A ripple of movement, but they didn't attack. They adjusted, matching his motion. Marcus realized something horrifying. They're mirroring me. The hunter watched closely. Yes. Marcus turned sharply. Why? The answer came slower this time. Because you are the reference point. The world felt like it was collapsing inward. Marcus whispered. I don't want to be a reference point, the hunter replied. You already are. A sudden scream echoed far away. Human. Real. Not infected. Marcus snapped his head toward the sound. The hunter noticed immediately. Your anchor signals are active elsewhere. Marcus froze. Angela. The hunter tilted its head. Yes. Marcus stepped forward instantly. Take me to her. The infected immediately shifted, barricading his path. Marcus stopped. The hunter did not move to help. It only observed. Marcus turned back. You said I matter to this system. Then let me go. The hunter's voice lowered. Your movement changes them. Marcus understood. If he moved, they reacted. If he stayed, they waited. He was no longer just a target. He was a command node. He slowly stepped forward again. The infected parted slightly. Not fully, but enough, like a sea responding to pressure. Marcus walked through them. His heart pounded violently. Every step made the infected adjust. Follow. Recalculate. Not attacking. Tracking. The hunter followed behind at a distance. Like a shepherd watching a newly formed flock, Marcus whispered under his breath. This isn't survival. He looked at the creatures around him, at how they moved, at how they waited, at how they listened. This is control. The hunter responded from behind him. This is order. A distant helicopter passed overhead again. Meech lights swept across the street. For a brief moment, Marcus saw his reflection in a broken window, and he realized something that made his blood run cold. The infected weren't just reacting to him. They were aligning around him, forming patterns that didn't exist before, like his presence was rewriting their behavior in real time. Marcus stopped walking. The entire infected group stopped with him. Perfect synchronization, he whispered. Oh my God, the hunter stepped forward. You see it now. Marcus turned slowly. I'm not leading them. A pause. I'm organizing them. The hunter nodded. Yes. Another explosion lit the sky in the distance. The city was still burning, still falling. But around Marcus, something new was forming. And for the first time since the outbreak began, the infected weren't just surviving. They were becoming structured, intentional, connected. Marcus looked at the hunter, his voice barely audible. If I keep walking, the hunter finished the sentence. They will follow. Marcus swallowed hard. And if I stop, the hunter replied calmly. They will wait. A long silence. Then Marcus whispered, Then I choose where they go. The hunter's head tilted slightly. That is correct. Marcus looked at the infected surrounding him, at Angela somewhere out there, at Tasha, at Colonel Harris, at the collapsing city. And I realized something terrifying. The apocalypse wasn't just ending civilization. It was offering him control over what came after. Marcus took a slow breath. then stepped forward again, and the city moved with him. Marcus walked, and the city followed. Not all of it. Never all of it. But enough for the streets ahead to change shape as he moved through them. Infected units adjusted their positions like a living algorithm responding to a new variable. The hunter stayed behind him at a distance, silent now, observing, learning him the way it once said it learned everything else. Marcus hated that because part of him was starting to understand it back. He forced that thought down immediately. No, he muttered. I'm still me. But the system, whatever it was, didn't care what he believed. It responded to what he was becoming. Ahead, the city opened into a wide intersection, burning cars, Kahad buses. And in the center, a military convoy, real soldiers, real weapons. Armored trucks formed a defensive half-circle. Floodlights burned through smoke. A loudspeaker echoed. Infect. Retching. Hold the line. Marcus stopped. The infected behind him stopped instantly too. Perfect synchronization. The soldiers noticed. Silence fell across both sides. Then, one soldier shouted, "There! A human in the front!" All weapons shifted. Red laser sights locked onto Marcus. Marcus raised his hand slightly. "I'm not here to fight." Colonel Harris's voice crackled over a nearby radio from somewhere behind the convoy. "Marcus, don't move." Marcus froze. "You're alive." "I am," Harris replied sharply. "And I'm telling you, whatever is behind you is not normal infected." Marcus looked back slightly. The hunter stood on a rooftop now, watching, waiting, like it was allowing this moment to unfold. Marcus turned forward again. "There's civilians in the Eastern District," he shouted. "My sister is one of them!" A pause. Then the commander of the convoy stepped forward. "You just walked through a swarm that stopped for you," the commander said. "Tell me why." Marcus didn't answer immediately, because he didn't fully understand anymore. The hunter's voice echoed from above the street. "Because he is the pivot." The soldiers immediately aimed upward. "Contact on rooftop." But the hunter didn't attack. It simply looked down at them, then at Marcus. "Choose." Marcus swallowed. "Choose what?" The hunter answered. "Order or extinction." A massive roar erupted from the infected behind Marcus. But they didn't advance. They waited for direction. The soldiers saw it. Even they understood the implication. One whispered into his radio. "There." Coordinated. Marcus turned back toward the convoy. "I'm not your enemy," the commander shouted. "Then what are you?" Marcus hesitated, then answered honestly. "I don't know anymore." The ground suddenly shook, not from footsteps, from something deeper. A distant explosion ripped through a skyscraper nearby. But this one was different, too clean, too controlled. The hunter's voice came again. "They are awakening faster than expected." Marcus looked around. More infected were arriving. But they weren't chaotic anymore. They were forming groups, clusters, parts. And at the far end of the street, something new emerged. A larger infected unit. But different. Its movements were precise, its posture upright, and it carried something in its hand, a broken radio antenna. It stopped, looked at Marcus, and spoke, not like the hunter, but clearly. "Node detected." Marcus stepped back instinctively. The soldiers reacted instantly. "That one can speak?" the commander shouted. "Fire!" Bullets tore into the advanced infected. But it didn't collapse. It raised its hand, and the bullets slowed. Not stopped, slowed. Like the air itself thickened around it. Marcus stared. No, that's impossible." The hunter spoke softly from above. "Not impossible." A pause. Next stage. The advanced infected tilted its head, then extended its arm toward Marcus. And the network responded. Every infected in sight turned, not attacking, not reacting, all facing Marcus at once. The soldiers panicked. "What the hell is happening?" Marcus backed up. The hunter finally stepped forward, landing between Marcus and the convoy. And for the first time, it spoke directly to the new infected. "Designation?" The advanced infected answered. "Conductor." Silence even. The hunter paused. Marcus whispered. Conductor! The hunter turned slightly. It is forming structure above mine. Marcus felt ice in his chest. There's more of you, the hunter replied. There will be more. The conductor stepped forward. You are unstable link. It looked at Marcus. You will be replaced. Marcus shook his head. No one is replacing me. The conductor tilted its head, then smiled, and suddenly, the infected swarm moved. Not toward the soldiers, not toward Marcus, but around the entire battlefield, encircling everything. The soldiers realized too late. They were inside a controlled zone now. Not a battlefield, a system boundary. Colonel Harris's voice came through again. Marcus, you need to end this now. Marcus looked at him. I don't know how. The hunter spoke calmly. You do. Marcus turned sharply. What? The hunter stepped closer. You are the origin of synchronization. The conductor interrupted. And I am its future. The two entities, hunter and conductor, faced each other, two layers of the same evolution, different interpretations of the same virus. Marcus suddenly understood. This isn't infection. His voice shook. It's a rewrite. The conductor stepped forward. We remove instability. The hunter responded. We refine adaptation. Marcus looked between them. You're both using me. The conductor answered. Yes. The hunter answered. Yes. The soldiers raised weapons. But nobody fired because the infected didn't move. They waited for Marcus. Everything waited for Marcus, the entire city, alive and dead, held on his decision. Marcus's hands trembled. Angela, Tasha, Colonel Harris, everyone, everything. One choice. And then, a distant voice cut through the chaos. Marcus. His head snapped around Angela, standing on a damaged overpass, alive barely behind her. Infected closing in, Marcus froze. The conductor turned its head. Primary anchor detected. The swarm shifted instantly, not toward soldiers. Toward Angela. Marcus screamed, No! Stop! And the entire infected mass stopped mid-motion instantly. The conductor paused. The command interrupted. The hunter looked at Marcus for the first time. Something like realization passed through it. You are not becoming system. A pause. You already are the control layer. Marcus stared at his hands, at Angela, at the army, at the infected, at both evolving entities, and finally understood the horrifying truth. He wasn't infected. He wasn't controlled. He wasn't even chosen. He was the interface between two emerging intelligences, human survival and post-human order. The conductor stepped forward again. Join synchronization. The hunter spoke quietly, or collapse both systems. Marcus looked at Angela, at the convoy, at the burning city, then whispered, I didn't start this. His voice hardened. But I decide what it becomes. The infected waited. The soldiers waited. The hunters waited. The conductor waited. Marcus took a breath, then raised his hand, and for the first time, he gave a command that wasn't instinct, wasn't fear, wasn't survival, it was choice. Stand down. The infected froze. The conductor staggered slightly. The hunter looked at him, carefully, and the city went silent. For the first time since the outbreak began, everything listened. The city didn't feel like a city anymore. It felt like a system that had stopped pretending to be under control. Fire spread across multiple districts in slow, deliberate patterns. Not random anymore, but structured, like something was mapping survival zones. And in the middle of it all, Marcus stood at the center of three forces. One side, the military convoy, weapons aimed, waiting for orders. Another, the infected swarm, perfectly still, waiting for him. And above them both, the hunter, the original evolution. Watching everything like it was finally reaching completion. The conductor's voice echoed again from somewhere beyond the crowd. Final integration required. The infected responded instantly. Slight movement, synchronized tension, like a system preparing to execute a command. Colonel Harris shouted from the convoy. Marcus, end this now. Angela's voice broke through the chaos behind him. Marcus, please, Tasha screamed. Don't let them use you. Everything collapsed into a single moment of pressure. Marcus's hands shook. His mind burned with fragments. The lab, the signature, the failed containment reports, the phrase, adaptive intelligence increases when linked to a human cognitive anchor. He whispered, "So that's what I am." The hunter stepped closer. No, a pause. "You are choice," the conductor interrupted immediately. "In fact, he is interface. He is bridge. He is convergence point." The infected around them shifted again. The city itself felt like it was holding its breath. Marcus looked at Angela, then at the convoy, then at the endless infected formations stretching down broken streets, and finally, at the hunter, the thing that started it, the thing that understood it, the thing that created structure from death. Marcus spoke quietly. "If I do nothing, what happens?" The hunter answered first. "Collapse." The conductor answered instantly after. "Optimization. Two futures. Neither human." Marcus closed his eyes. For a second, he was back in the boardroom. Clocks ticking. Investors waiting. A billion-dollar deal about to be signed. A normal life, a human life. He opened his eyes. No more systems. Silence, even the infected, stilled further. The hunter tilted its head. The conductor responded. "Impossible." Marcus raised his hand slowly. "I'm not choosing your version of the future." A pause. "I'm choosing something neither of you can control." The conductor stepped forward. "Then you choose extinction." Marcus shook his head. "No." His voice hardened. "I choose reset." The hunter froze for the first time. It didn't move. "Explain." Marcus looked at the city, at the infected network reacting to him like a nervous system, at the conductor trying to organize it into domination, at the hunter trying to evolve it into something else entirely. Then he understood the truth. They weren't fighting for humanity. They were fighting over control of what replaced it. Marcus whispered, "You built a system that needs a central node." The conductor replied, "Yes." Marcus turned slightly. "And I am that node." The hunter said nothing. Marcus continued, "So I remove the node." A sudden silence. Even the wind seemed to stop. Angela shouted, "Marcus, no!" Colonel Harris realized instantly. "You can't mean—" Marcus raised his hand higher, not toward the infected, not toward the military, but toward himself. "If I'm the link, Don." A breath. "Then I break the link." The conductor reacted instantly. "Stop him." The infected surged forward, but froze mid-step, because Marcus was still the command signal, and he was now issuing the final override. "Stand down." Everything stopped, even the conductor staggered. The hunter stepped forward urgently. "Do not do this." Marcus looked at it. For the first time, no fear, only clarity. "You said I'm the control layer." The hunter paused. "Yes." Marcus nodded slowly. "Then I decide the layer ends here." A pulse of silence spread across the infected network, like a dying signal. The conductor tried to stabilize it. No failure detected. Reconnection required. But Marcus whispered the final command, "Disconnect." The effect was immediate. The infected across the city froze. Every synchronized movement stopped. Every coordinated pattern broke. For the first time since the outbreak began, there was no system, only chaos again. The conductor screamed, not with sound, but through collapsing coordination. "You cannot remove function." The hunter stepped back slowly, and for the first time, it looked almost lost. Marcus felt his knees weaken, but he stayed standing, because Angela was still there, because Tasha was still there, because Colonel Harris was still there. The infected began collapsing into confusion again. Returning to mindless movement, the city was breaking apart into its original nightmare. But it was no longer organized, no longer evolving in one direction. Marcus whispered, "This is humanity again." The hunter looked at him, quietly. "And chaos." Marcus nodded. "Yes." A long silence. Then the hunter said, "You have ended convergence." Marcus answered, "I ended control." The conductor's last echo faded into static. The infected scattered across the city, no longer unified. The military convoy lowered weapons slowly, unsure if the threat was gone or simply changed. Angela ran toward Marcus. Tasha followed. Colonel Harris limped forward. The world was broken, but still human. The hunter stood alone on the ruined street, watching Marcus. Then it spoke one final time. "You rejected evolution." Marcus shook his head. "I rejected ownership." A pause. The hunter nodded slowly, then turned away. And before disappearing into the smoke, it said, "Then the future is uncertain again." And for the first time, it didn't sound like a threat. It sounded like truth. The city burned on. The dead wandered again, but humanity remained unclaimed. Marcus collapsed as Angela reached him. Not dead, not infected, just human again. And for the first time since the outbreak began, that was enough. The end.